Hello everybody, and welcome to the world of grants. And this is a presentation which I've decided to put together because as a professional grant writer, people constantly ask me the questions, is there a grant out there for me and where do I look? So what I thought we'd do is actually put together this presentation. So again, people ask, is there a grant there for me? Where's a funding opportunity and where do you start? So quickly, let me introduce myself. My name is Pat Gross. You could say I'm a grant writing professional. I've got over 20 odd years experience in the grant writing field, and I've been active on both sides of the funding fence, both here in Australia and overseas in the United Kingdom. I've designed and developed guidelines, I've assessed applications ranging from capital infrastructure to small business and community projects, and I've supported applications. So I supported applicants to put their applications together. I've been involved in the full range when it comes to grant writing. I've managed a very large training fund, having to put into place systems, and under that there were 50 different projects where eligible organisations had to apply in and go through the grants process. So you could say I've had a full-on experience in the area, and I've also been successful in getting better deals for clients on more than one occasion. And you know, the time when you put an application in for so much and you end up getting more, and you figure out how on earth did that happen. So there's a couple of clues coming on later in the presentation. Some ideas of, you know, the kind of projects, activities that I've been involved in are pretty vast actually, because multicultural grants, grants for youth engagement and youth empowerment, aged care for the aged care industry, e-learning grants, community capacity building. Just recently, a drop-in music centre for young people, and community engagement around performing arts. Vocational training and employment readiness programs within beyond the normal education and training parameters to get young people who are at risk of just dropping out of the system completely, to get them back in again and give them that impotence they need to move forward. Partnership grants and business and community research, a facility turning a disused premises, applying for through an expression of interest process, competitive, with an idea of turning it into a community facility, and I was involved in that one. Drought initiatives, bushfire initiatives, around business growth in the business environment. So my experience has been transnational, international programs, that was pretty strong in the UK. So I've got a varied experience when it comes to grant writing. Now, I could at this point, you know, roll out the testimonials, but that's not what I want to do. What I want to show you is just one in particular, because it actually emphasizes that what I do is I like, when I'm working with my clients, I like to be able to get to know the organization, their vision, their plan, their dream, and the grants are working around it to help them to achieve what they want to achieve, and to score a few really, you know, good goals. And that's what I do when I work very closely with some of my organizations, that I like to be able to work with them for the long term. Now, in addition to tonight's presentation, if you go onto our website, www.thecommunityentrepreneur.com, and on the very front page towards the bottom, there's a series of free e-guides, and one of those e-guides is the 5 strategies to triple your chances of winning grants. Now, that was written at a time when I was coming across organisations that were writing grants, but they're really not doing themselves any justice, because they were applying for small amounts when they could be applying for more. Their quality wasn't as good as it could be, but they had some fantastic ideas, and that's what got my passion happening for being able to train a new generation of grant writers, and to give confidence to people and to organisations and businesses out there to apply for what it will really take to get that success that you're looking for. So during this presentation, we're going to explore 9 different ways to source funding for your venture, and it's not always about grants. We'll look at where to look, the other grants mindset. And by that, I mean that to look at what you're looking for from the perspective of the agency, the funding body that's actually going to invest in you. Because at the end of the day, it's not about what you want, it's about what you can do that's going to help them to achieve their priorities and their goals. The types of projects and ventures that could be funded. Just generally speaking, how the whole funding arena works. Who's eligible? Eligibility. And how to keep informed of opportunities so that you don't miss out. So something may come along, and there may be another opportunity. So how do you keep tabs on what's out there, to be honest? And 5 mistakes to avoid when you're looking at grants. And at the end of this, we're going to make what we call an irresistible offer, a couple of irresistible offers to start you on your journey to grant success. So let's start. Did you know that there are at least 9 different ways to source funding for your idea of project? When we first did this webinar, we actually listed 7, but there is a couple more that obviously I didn't give them justice. So let's go through them. Now, first of all, I'm going to list the first 3 because that's the 3 levels of government in Australia. It depends where you are, in which country. There are different overlays of government funding. Back in the UK, we had European funding, regional funding, and UK funding. So we had, similar kind of structures. And you probably find that if you're looking for a particular kind of funding, you might find that state government and federal government are running similar grants. And there's a bit of a coincidence in a way, because they're actually when it comes from government and from any funding body, they're actually taking this from their policy drivers, and the funding is actually a mechanism so that they can get out there to get somebody to actually to achieve the results that they're looking for. And so you have issues which actually, they strike at the federal level and at the state level, and to some degree at the local government level. And I'll give you an idea, give an example. I was working with a multicultural group about 3 years ago, and we wanted to do a digital storytelling project. It was about capturing histories of older people, post World War II migrants, so you can understand that their histories were disappearing. And we actually were able to apply both to state government and to federal government. And to see which one came through, and it was actually the federal government. So, sometimes if you're looking for a grant, there may be a bit of an overlay between the two, in the federal and the state level, but it doesn't mean that if it's available at federal government that every single state's going to have a similar grant. It just means that some states actually have the same priorities. A good level to be looking, whether you're business, community, it doesn't matter, is local government, because that's close to home for where you are. And local government, again, it's down to their council plans, their health and wellbeing plan, their youth strategy. It could be their environmental strategy. They have these policies, these objectives that they need to get some results over a period of 4 or 5 years. And funding is a mechanism, arts strategy, etc. So you probably find that if you're even looking under local government, there's a variety of grant opportunities. Melbourne, for example, there's quite a bit of opportunity there for investing in business in Melbourne. So yeah, it's useful to look at all three government levels of government when you're looking for something. Okay, so sector-specific grants. Now, these grants can also be managed by the federal or state government, or there may just be a sector, somebody looking after on behalf of the sector. So you've got arts grants, and there's about 3 or 4 peak bodies for arts grants. There's one at the federal level. The state governments will have their own sort of arts grants central point. There's a couple of adjuncts as well. So I would be looking, if you're interested in the arts, it's a sector specific, then I would be looking at where those key points for arts grants are. Same with sports grants, same with multicultural. Yeah, for multicultural, you probably have a state level as agency looking after the multicultural side, and then you'll have the federal government. So again, you can just look generally across the 3 levels of government, or you can look specifically in your strategy, say, look, which are the key funding bodies in arts. Now, it's more they are the key ones because there are more bodies out there that will probably fund arts grants. That's just as an example, but I just want to give you the key, start looking at the key agencies. The philanthropic trust, there is a lot of funding around via the philanthropic trusts, and most but not all, well, there's a couple of exceptions, but most actually will require conditions such as being of charitable status and having deductible gift recipient status under the Australian Tax Office, and usually those kind of organisations have of their core purpose is working with social disadvantage. But again, working within philanthropic area opens up education, environment, health, youth, homelessness. There's a whole variety of grants that can be accessed, even grants that lead young people into employment. So there's an economic bent as well, but they're there to actually improve the lives of people. And there's environmental grants in the philanthropic area as well. If you're a business, and look, the federal government and state government, there are some really good funding opportunities for businesses, but you'll find that sometimes that what you want to do doesn't fit. You've probably got something that's come to market. It's not. There is a government grants that actually help to commercialise new products that have been developed, new services. But if you've actually got something and it's ready and you've perhaps missed out on the opportunity, as an example, then maybe what you're looking at is some investors. And it's not a grant you're looking for there, as I said, it's investment. And the easiest way to do that is to go onto the internet, onto the search engines, and just bring up some words like business angels, and you'll get lists of investors out there and what they're prepared to invest in what areas. Yes, there is a bit of return on their investment that's required, but it's going to help you to bring your services to market. There's crowdfunding, that's been around now for a few years, and again, it's like you're putting something out there and seeing if anybody's going to come forward and help you. Charitable causes work well as well, sort of if you want to send somebody overseas, or there's different things that you can do. But again, there are some crowdfunding sites. What we're going to do for people who have registered for this presentation is we're going to send you a document, and in that document we're actually listed the key funding agencies. So we've got some of the key federal departments that you could start looking. State government, we've actually each of the states, we've listed some access points to start looking for grants. Local government, this basically look at your own local government area, and some philanthropics who've given you a start on where to look for philanthropic grants, and some business angels and crowdfunding sites. So we're going to send you this information so that you can start looking for yourself to see what grants are available to you. There's fundraising, and I actually separated that and put that in there because especially we've come across the philanthropic as an example where they actually state that they don't fund fundraising grants, fundraising applications, and so that really highlighted that some people are looking for grants. But I think they don't realise is that a grant really is a project. When you get funded, is to achieve an outcome that suits their outcomes. Whereas fundraising, you're getting contributions to do something. So it's a little bit different to getting a grant. And finally, the bank loan. And I come across small business owners, and look, some of the threshold criteria that you'll come across if you're a business is that you're probably going to have to be in business for at least 3 years. You probably need to have turnover of over $500,000. And so if you're sort of only been in business about 6 to 12 months, if that, you're small business, etc., but you need something to kickstart or whatever, you're probably finding that the grant area is not what you're looking for. But the banks do have schemes specifically for small businesses. So the two that we've added there are fundraising and bank loans. So what can be funded, and what is it? What's the shape of grants? Well, economic. If you are a business, you're going to use a business as an example, but even training providers, if you can demonstrate that it's new technology, it's new industries, growth industries, that you're going to create jobs and benefit the local economy, perhaps expansion and being able to sell overseas. All the economic growth, GDP type areas, there's likely to be a grant that's there to assist you. Even in tourism, if it's going to increase the visitor nights, etc., if it can lead to jobs growth, then that is a key area in government funding. And look, as I mentioned, training, because that leads people into employment situations. So that's number one. Economic, social. This is a really big area to play in, because as you looked at the examples of some of the successes that I've been involved with, it's a wide variety of areas that can be funded, because at the end of the day, it's about the livelihoods, the lifestyle, the well-being of the community, of people. So it can be anything ranging from, as I mentioned, some storytelling that we did to try and capture histories, and that was really good because it was engaging older people who had become a little bit isolated. And it could be something that's responsive to issues like the drought or to bushfires, or something where people want to become more engaged. People at risk of we call the high disadvantaged. There are prevention out there for family violence. All those kind of grants are actually there to benefit and to improve the lives of people. We've got the cultural grants, the arts grants, the music grants. I include sport in there, the film and television. Anything that really is, the culture defines people. It defines who you are, where you are, defines the country, and there's a lot of value in culture itself. So there's quite a bit of investment there in the cultural area when it comes to grants. Environmental can be sustainability. It can be, land care, land use. It can be agriculture. Again, we're only custodians, and we're there to, ensure that there's a future of the land, etc., for the future generations. So, anything environmental, there's likely to be something somewhere that you could actually tap into for some kind of funding. Health and welfare, of course, healthy people live longer, live better lives. The interventions, the National Disability Insurance Scheme and future of aged care, and allowing people to be able to have more user choice, to have happier, productive lives. There's a big emphasis in that area, so that to focus on the health and well-being of everybody, basically. It could be health programs like reducing obesity or getting people more active. So that's an area that you can be looking at. Education, everything from birth right up to it can be U3A to the older seniors, but also from 0 to 8, 8 to 15, 15 to 25, the lifestyle stages. The life stages of young people, to give them the best start in life, and what can be done, especially when you've got young people who have not had the best start in life. So, what can be done to improve the situation for them, to give them a future that perhaps they would not have been destined to have. Research, you've got the usual, the university research, the cancer research, diseases, research and technology, community research, business research. Research is, without research, where's the innovation? Without the innovation, where's the future growth? So there is funding there in that area. So basically, that's a bit of an overview of how the funding, the dimensions of funding work. So what types of grants can you get within those? Well, equipment, for example. I see a lot of grants around in the sports area for equipment. Travel in, equipment can also be for, I'm just thinking of, I don't know, radio stations, updating those kind of equipment, life-saving, I've seen equipment there. It depends, within the sectors, you'll probably find there's a grant available for equipment. So remember, we talked about those specific sectors. Travel, I've seen travel grants around, travel for conferences. I've seen them in the philanthropic area, definitely. I've seen them in the arts area. So depending on what you're looking at, there may be some travel grants available, but there are sort of under specific conditions. Capital and infrastructure grants. And definitely, when it comes to business and you're talking about, growth and new manufacturing, certainly where I live, there's a growth of agribusinesses which are now, producing byproducts which are now being sold online. And therefore they're increasing, their warehousing space, their factory space. If it's going to actually, as we mentioned, add to the GDP, add to jobs, moving forward, then there's likely to be some infrastructure funding to help these businesses to grow. Same in the community area. Every so often there is some grants for community facilities, and certainly for schools as well. So certainly look around, and there's likely to be some infrastructure grants around. Social capital and community development. There's a wide variety of grants available there. As I said, with multicultural grants during the droughts, we had again, we had some digital storytelling, but we also had grants for isolated men living in the bush, and bringing them in and doing some cooking programs. So community development, a program just after the 2009 fires in 2010, of a community coming together to prepare what it would do if there was another emergency and how it would deal with it differently. So there are, there's those kind of grants are available. Business innovation and growth, I've touched on that, and basically there's a federal government at the moment is very strong on entrepreneurship. There's an entrepreneurs program. There's funding there for assistance with putting together business plans, and these business plans lead to new growth in products. There's research and development, tax incentives. So if businesses are developing new know-how, new products, etc., the government is actually giving them some assistance to be able to to create the innovation. Exports, export marketing development grants. So if you've got products and services which are Australian, which are going to be sort of sold overseas, you're going overseas, you're marketing them, you've got agents, etc., then the government will help out in that area as well when it comes to marketing those products and services. Capacity building, organisational support. If you are it's great having all these projects and activities out there, but what about the core of the organisation? So, there is funding there to help to build the core. I work with strategic planning quite a bit. In the business area, there are grants they're available to help businesses with their business plans, working with community organisations, their strategic plans, their workforce development plans, workforce development certainly when it comes into the business space. So there is funding there to help to build the capacity of organisations. And then we're looking at health and well-being grants that are out there. And finally, education and training. So that's just, a snapshot of the types of grants that are available. Now, it's okay me sort of blasting you with all this information, but the next question is, well, where do we look for this information? And I mentioned to you that we, if you go onto our website, but we'll also send you a copy of the document, there's actually some links to where you can get started. Now, I'll mention this a little bit later, but what you could also do is to get yourself onto some, there are sites on the internet that offer newsletters where they alert you to selective grants as they become available. That's just one strategy. But and there are also those who charge you as well. So if you're seriously looking at grants, then that may be something you may want to look at. But in the meantime, just to get you started, on our website, we actually got links for you to start looking. So no excuse, you can look. So who can be funded? We talked about what can be funded, but we haven't talked about who can be funded. And the government will, most often than not, the government contracts with legal entities. Now, within that, I say to people, if you found a grant that you're looking for, one of the first things I would do is look at the eligibility criteria as to who can apply for the funding. Because It's fantastic, but when you look at it and if you're planning, you look at the eligibility and you realise actually you're not eligible, then you've wasted your time and effort. And this can happen with some really good social grants. And when you look, they are you're required to be a charity with deductible gift recipient status, for example. So that, you know, wipes out a lot of potential people who are attracted to those kinds of funding. So that's just an example, is look straight away to find out who's eligible. It could be that in your area, it might be that the local government's eligible. You might not be, but local government might be eligible. Or it could be, as I mentioned, if you're a business, you've got to have a certain amount of turnover or been in business for a certain length of time. So if you look at that eligibility criteria up front, then you will be able to determine whether this is something that you can apply for or not. Now, I mentioned that the government contracts with legal entities, but what if you're a group, just a group, and you're not incorporated, you haven't got any of that, but there's something that, you know, that's really that you could do. So that's when you call auspicing. So there may be an organisation out there that is eligible, and basically, and you've got to be careful, because in some grants they'll say we will not accept auspicing arrangements. But when they do, you can have the details of the auspice body, and the agreement will be with them, but you will be running the project, and they are responsible for making sure that you can run the project. So that's how it works when you're not some kind of legal entity. Partnerships, especially the big grants, and when you start to consolidate the grants out that are out there, a partnership, if you've got a big big application, it could be that your organisation doesn't have all the skills that's required to be able to provide the best service to the people that the grant may be looking after, and therefore it might be wise to go into a partnership. So I've seen some good youth partnership grants. I've seen some multicultural partnership grants where they wanted multicultural organisations who are small organisations, but it's a huge task that's needed for the grant. So they're expecting them to partner with local government and perhaps some health agencies, etc. So again, there are opportunities if you're part of a partnership. Now, we have, business. If you're a business, for example, and you're not like a one that's going in for economic growth and all that criteria, but you have got a service that you can offer. Now, I use the example of a video production company. And unless you're looking for film and screen type video activities, and you've got the evidence and the expertise to be to fit the right criteria, but you may be that there is an organisation down the road that's looking. I'm using an example here, looking to get young people aged 18 to 25 into employment, and looking at different ways of doing it. And there's a grant that comes along, and we could say, well, okay, why don't we add some video production here as part of the bigger project? And in that case, if you were the video production company, you could be put in there as a subcontractor who's providing the expertise and the support that's going to provide the video component to this bigger project. I have people who have got some really good skills when it comes to specific areas of working with women result of domestic violence, for example. I'll just give that as an example. They're obviously not going to get an application or a grant in their own right, but they may be able to add some value to an application that's going in there by an organisation that's dealing with that issue. So that's just an example that if you have got some expertise, then you might actually be able to bring it to a grant application. Recently working on a grant application that's brought in marketing companies to work, and social experts in social enterprises to work with a bigger project. So these are examples of bringing your expertise that you could then lend that expertise, or shall we say sell that expertise, to a larger project. Okay, so you've found something of interest. Well, what you do is, and this is thanks to the age of technology, is if the funder has actually funded that similar grants in the past, then they will more than likely have put the details of the previous grant rounds on their internet pages, on their pages. And they will probably have put on there who was successful, what they were successful, what the projects or programs were about, and how much. And that is a great indicator, because you might have an idea and you want to know whether you're barking up the right or the wrong tree. Then you'll be able to see what was funded. And usually, you know, the first time a new initiative comes along and nobody's quite sure, and you might miss out first time, because the way that first time they'll probably go for some really spectacular or safe, it depends. They go for the ones who are most likely to be successful. But the second time around, you can check who was successful in the first round of grants, see what the flavour was, and you can adapt what you want to deliver in the face of that information. Just be a little bit careful, because between rounds the guidelines might change a little bit, but it's useful to check out previous grant rounds, and it lets you know how much money is likely to be funded. And that's great, especially if you're somebody who thinks that you have to live on the smell of an oily rag and not put in what actually the project is worth, and you put in too little. And I know, because I've been there, in terms of if I saw something that wasn't funded, wasn't budgeted sufficiently, and you could tell that that project would struggle, then it wouldn't get funded. Get yourself onto funder mailing lists, because again, when you go, you check out the grant round, you find the funding body, they show you what was previously funded. They'll give you an opportunity there to actually go onto their newsletters. And that's great, because when you're on their newsletter list, you're going to get alerted prior to grant rounds opening. And that happened just recently with our large youth round. We got about 2 weeks notice. We knew it was coming up sometime later in the year, but we actually got 2 weeks notice of the impending grant round opening, which was a pretty good reminder. So get yourself onto these newsletter mailing lists so that you're ready and you're aware of the funding opportunities when they come up. Grants Alert newsletter list, which I've just mentioned before. There are subscription sites, some are paid, some are free. If you can get yourself onto somebody's newsletter list, you can be then alerted to grants that you're probably not aware of. Yes, now my passion is to create a new generation of grant writers. And I've seen some really good potential grants which when they came in for assessment, they got scored pretty badly because they were very poorly written. And even though you know in your gut that they are actually representing the projects that really should be working, and then you get the professional ones that come in and it's more like a tick and flick, but you just think, oh, you just really want to root for those guys who have got the best of intentions but just don't have the resources. So I want to be able to create a new generation of grant writers, so we're going to enroll in our grant writing coaching school, and I'll explain a little bit about that. And make sure that you're grant ready. You are grant ready for the next opportunity, and basically doing your homework and then being ready, so the shovel ready, so when something comes, you've got all the you're ready to go for it. Now, before we move on, I want to look at 5 mistakes to avoid when you're looking at grants. Now, the first one is that grants are not a license to print money. They're an investment for all parties. And so the opportunity there is to convince the funder that their money is in safe hands. And why I'm saying that is, again, is a clue to why on more than one occasion I've managed to get more with my clients, is because of the quality of that particular question / scenario. And that is to do with showing that whoever you're writing for has got really good systems in place, good governance management in place, is used to working in the area that you're talking about. There's good data, there's good evaluation procedures, they can monitor what they're doing, they really know what they're doing, they've got the experience, and if you can show that information, then that is going to assist in the decision making. Don't assume the funder knows about you, your business, the community, and your cause. Feed them facts and evidence of need, the results, as well as your capacity to deliver the funded program. And it's so easy because you can build a relationship with your funding body, and when you're putting your application in, you tend to be a little bit lazy, and you think, oh, we don't need to convince these people that there's a real problem here, but actually you do. I'll give you a scenario. Say 3 or 4 years down the line, these organisations are audited, and somebody will come back to them and say, well, where's the evidence? Why did you fund these guys? Where's the evidence here? And the people who might have given it this sort of tick and flick have moved on. So the organisation is a little bit exposed as to why they funded this programme. And situation in that area might have changed over 3 or 4 years as well. So it's very difficult to justify why that funding was given under those circumstances. So, and also, if in a competitive funding situation, it really is about saying my need is, or this need is greater than somebody else's need, and we're going to be able to create this much change and improvement and percentages and numbers, and people read numbers. So don't assume, don't be vague, get as much data in as possible is what I'm saying there. And don't try to write about everything. Answer the questions, especially when the questions have got weightings against them. Sometimes I've seen where the actual answer hasn't been in the question it was meant to be in, and it's been in another question altogether. But again, answer the question is paramount, and don't fill your response with the jargon, with the words in the guidelines, because then it becomes dense reading. It becomes difficult to read, and the assessor is switched off. So you really want to make what you're going to write as easily readable as possible whilst answering the question. That's it. No more, no less. And don't try to fit your idea around a grant that doesn't fit. Square peg, round holes. Believe me, there's going to be another taxi coming along shortly that will get you to the destination. So don't chase every grant. I've seen that happen with some agencies, and they've chased everything, and believe me, they've ended up moving away from core business because they just chased the grants, and the grants haven't fit with what they're meant to be doing, and it's created more problems in those organisations. And finally, don't become grant dependent, because that could lead to long-term disaster on many levels. And that's more in the community space, not so much in the business space, but in the community space, I've seen organisations grow based on their grants performance, and they're great. They've been sustainable for a few years, but they've been going in a certain direction, and then government policy changes, and it changes significantly, and you suddenly find that you've got an organisation, that culture, that can't move fast enough. There's somebody else waiting in the wings. It may be that government policy wants bigger partnerships. And suddenly we're finding that these long-term people in long-term jobs are suddenly unemployed because the funding's no longer available. And what I say to my clients is, you need at least 3 different levels of funding from 3 different areas to be able to ride the storms of anything like that. Okay, so today we've explored the potential sources of funding, but what you want is not necessarily a grant. It could be a loan. It could be, an investment. It could be, some fundraising. So when somebody says, "Oh, I want a grant," you really need to explore exactly what it is they do want. The rule of thumb about what ideas are likely to be supported by grants, what triggers funding from the funder's perspective, and it's all about their priorities, their goals, their results, and how you fit in with that. Where to look, and I hope we've given you some real good starting points. How to make sure you don't miss an opportunity. And that's by getting yourself on the relevant mailing lists. And 5 mistakes you must avoid at all times. So when you get started, those are the 5 fundamentals to make sure that you avoid. Okay, so look, not everybody who's listening to this presentation is going to be wanting to become good at grant writing. It could be that you really want to do is to find a grant and then to get somebody to write the grant for you. And that's fine, because that's a service we can offer as well. And if you're interested in talking to us, either get our number off the website or contact us on support@thecommunityentrepreneur.com, and we'll certainly get back to you and have a conversation. But as I said, I also want to be able to help people to get good at grant writing, so that we've got a better mix, a bigger mix of grant writing opportunity out there, and the funding sort of becoming more relevant and being used, especially in this competitive environment. So look, are you ready to start attracting $10,000, $50,000 or more? And that's at the starting. That's just as a start. As I mentioned, working with an agency that $1,500 for a festival, our contribution towards the festival, that sounds, it does not a lot, and then over a period of 18 months we were up in the big time, and we managed to clear $1 million, and that was a journey in itself. Taking the organisation from that scarcity mindset of applying for very little to having the confidence to compete with the big boys and actually putting in professional wages, etc. And it worked, because they took that, the funding body saw them now as being more professional. So look, you can write grants and just wing it, but we say don't leave things to chance. And we're going to offer you, and this is what we're putting out there, is the Grant Writing Coaching School. And with this, we've got a 6-module training program, which I've designed. So you've got my thinking, my ideas, and you can work through it. And it's very, pedantic. And you can actually choose the grants that you want to practice on. So you can go online and have a look at some of these grants out there, and I can guarantee you that most grants in this world, even though they're written differently and look differently, they've got some very, very strong similarities in what's in them. So we do that. We will show you as we go along what's the key information that you can be looking for. And in this package, we've actually got templates and checklists, and it's not a case of, oh, you know, we read through this once and that's it. You can actually use those templates again and again, and I do. So they're relevant, and they help you to actually produce quality in your applications. So we learned the secret of successful grant writing strategies. We're going to have monthly coaching calls, webinars, a mastermind group, basically, to be able to share and to challenge each other, make each other accountable, and be part of that inner circle of community Facebook group. And in that, on top of all of this, I'm going to give up some of my personal time to be able to give you advice on your funding applications. So you've got somebody behind you, because it's a lonely world when you're putting an application together, because the weight of responsibility is on your shoulder. So wouldn't it be good if you could have somebody else to bounce off? So we're looking at learning the techniques that have attracted millions of dollars of funding. So how to unpack the grant guidelines so that you don't miss something important that could cost you thousands, cost you the grant. How to work out what the funder is looking for. Where are the clues, and show them the results that they're looking for. How to put together a winning project plan and a budget that actually talks to each other. I've actually seen it, you know, where the questions that are answered and the project plan basically lead you down one path, and the budget's telling you a completely different story, and sometimes it's hiding something that's actually ineligible. So you have to be able to align up your responses, your plan, your budget, all to tell the same story. And demonstrating to the funder that their funds will be well managed and in good hands. And I've already touched upon that, but you know, different techniques that you can put in place to show that there is that security there. And a plan to measure your project key success indicators. So the evaluation, and I'm beginning to see that more and more funders now are putting a bigger emphasis on evaluation. So, you know, there's different evaluation techniques. For 3 years, I was on a statewide team teaching people evaluation. So again, I'm there to be able to, especially in those group calls, to be able to work with you on developing evaluation for your project applications. So it's a six-part grant winning success formula self-paced training package. It's access to templates and checklists. There's a six monthly webinar group coaching calls, which is the mastermind group, membership of our Facebook grant writing inner circle, and up to 3 hours dedicated with me that can be used within 6 months. So you can target that. However, today, if you enroll before the end of November, we're going to extend this support period to the 31st of August. And we're going to get an extra 2 hours of support. So again, you know, funding, you can actually be strategic and wait for the right fund to come along, and you don't have to use all that time in one go. You can use an hour here, a couple of hours there, and being able to, you know, sort of get the best out of us. And we'll also send you an exclusive copy of my grant writing manifest, and that's my template I've put together, and I don't give this out. And because I work with different clients, at the beginning of the application forms, the administrivia, there's quite a bit of detail that's required. You know, that the ABN, charity numbers if it's a charity, details of the profit and loss, the kind of balance sheet, this, you know, the information that may be required, management, senior management, governance, all those kind of, you know, what if you had all that information in one place, so that you didn't have to keep going back and looking for it. So I put together what I call my grant writing manifest. So if you invest by the 30th of November, you get this 6-part grant winning success formula. You get 8 monthly webinar group coaching calls. That's 8, not 6. Membership of our Facebook grant writing inner circle, and up to 5 hours dedicated to be used anytime until the 31st of August. And basically, you know, are you ready to start 2017 with a Midas Touch? Now, I could add up the components. I don't know if you've seen these webinars where somebody will say, and this is worth this, and this is worth this, and this is worth this, and today you're going to get this. Well, look, you've seen what I can give you. The return on investment of having a really, you know, really well trained in grant writing, and those successes that you could get for whoever you're going to be. It could be for your own business. And you know, once you've done it once, you can do it again. It could be for organizations you're working with. You know, the satisfaction of you know, for what it's worth, all this funding and coming your direction. So that's, for me, that's the return on investment. And look, I'm looking at the future to be, because I only want to professional grant writers here, I'm looking on the package of 997. But for this presentation, I'm actually again going to knock $400 off of that, so it's $597, and you're still going to get all the bonuses. And if you need to, we'll even go into a payment plan with you. And I'm going to show you the link, and within the link you can include the word Intro 2016 in a special code box on the application, and that will bring the price down to $597. As I said, if you want a payment plan, then contact us directly at support@thecommunityentrepreneur.com. Can you do this any other way? Well, you could attend a 1-hour workshop or webinar on each grant you apply for, and to tell you, I recommend you do that anyway. But you know, what's an hour? How do you take what you've learned and package your application accordingly? And a word of warning there, recently I came across an application, a grant, and the presentation slides, this is the webinar, and the presentation slides, some information there was actually incorrect. And it was at odds with what was written in the guidelines. And I'd been using the visuals of the webinar presentation, and it was only at the last minute that I realised about it was a pretty drastic difference, and we were nearly caught out on that one. So you know, the 1-hour workshop or webinar is great, but don't rely on it. You can wing it, but you know, once in a while. But what if you had a system in place that you could avoid making even the simplest of mistakes? So you've got a structure in place for when you start applying for grants. You could attend a half or a 1-day grant writing workshop, but then what? Where's the support? Or you could get somebody else to write your applications for you, and we offer this service. You can contact us on support@thecommunityentrepreneur.com. But what if they're busy or unavailable when you need them? So the fact is, there's no comparison. And we've got a risk-free trial for you. So if you do, and we can start the 30 days, the clock running from January. But if you, but we can guarantee you, if you do what we tell you to do, then it's guaranteed that you're going to improve your chances of getting those grants and increasing the grants that you're going to get. So this offer is limited, and what we want you to do is to go into http://grantwritingcoaching.gr8.com, and we'll send a copy of these slides out later as well. So if you don't catch that, grantwritingcoaching.gr8.com. Yeah, we do have some various grant writing services. We do have the e-guide, which I alerted you to at the beginning of the session. The grant writing success formula is actually our 6-part modular program. We do workshops, you know, the 1-day workshops. We do grant writing done for you services. And we've got a schedule of pricing to do that. And you can get more information about what we do on getthatgrant.com, or contact us directly at support@thecommunityentrepreneur.com. So The services that we're offering, we don't just do grant writing, we do a variety of services. We're just about to launch a partnerships assessment tool, but I want to alert you to our project management services, because we're just about to put out there our 48-hour project manager program. And what we'll also want to throw in an additional bonus is that because it's valuable for anybody who's grant writing, because grant writing at the end of the day is project management planning, there'll be a discount on our 48-hour project manager as well. So you know, I hope you've got a lot of information out of this, and I'm just about to close the actual presentation itself. Okay, so we're still live, and you've actually got my screen. And I'm just looking here if there are any questions in the room. Okay. Oh yes, thanks. Okay. Thank you. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the broadcast, but the chat space will remain open.